Good morning, East Texas. It's time to rise and shine with the sun. The Grand Saline sun. Right here on VZTV. Grab your coffee and come join the fun.
Welcome to a Thursday edition of the morning show right here on VZTV, baby. And we want to thank you so much for being on here. And if you are on Facebook right now, I have got it going live right here. You see old Mitch Curtis sitting over there in a chair. We'll be talking with him in just a second. But as of right now, we're going to kick off with a little bit of smoke signals and get this show a-rolling. I tell you what, that intro song is the only reason why I do these daily monologues, so I get to hear that thing once a day. I just love that, but it gets your heart to pumping. Now, you know what? This is my monologue of the day, and this is a speech I've given around my house a million times, and anybody out there that's got kids, you'll get this. This will hit right at home, and it'll get you in the feels. Have you ever walked by the trash can, and there's a trash bag sitting in the floor right next to the trash can? It has not been taken out to the trash bin that's on the outside that goes to the curb. And have you ever seen the Jenga game on top of a trash can so somebody don't have to pull it out? Have you ever seen the little mess on the floor that somebody walked by and didn't pick up? Or, you know, they come in, they gripe about how messy the house is, but they're the ones that leave their dirty dishes all over the place. And if you go into their certain bedroom, it is a pigsty. And they gripe about the condition of the house. As a parent, you get irritated when you sit there and you say it would just take a little bit of effort, and all these little chores that I do, I wouldn't have to do, and it would save so much time if you would just be mature and take your own trash to the trash bin, take your own dish to the sink and wash it, rinse it off, whatever you do. It'd be a lot easier. Our households would run so much more cohesively if we ever had that. Now, get ready for get your toe stepped on. As a government, that is our house that we are running here. We sit back and we blame the government. We point fingers at the government. We blame the government. We sit there, the government this, the government that, the government this. We don't trust the government, blah, 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 blah. Guess what? We are the government. Until we get that through our heads and we quit looking at the government as a third party that is not us, that is some sort of alien entity that we have no control over, until we quit looking at it as some sort of rogue beast, a bull in a china shop, until we quit looking at the government as the parent and us as the rotten child that leaves the crap laying on the ground, until we take responsibility for our own country, then we're going to let somebody else run our country. We cannot sit back and gripe about the trash that's being left on the ground. We can't be griping about the trash that's being jingled on top of the trash can if we ourselves are not going to step up and take the trash out. And when I'm talking about the trash, I'm talking about the politicians that don't listen to us, that don't want to talk to us, that have no time for us, that get irritated with us because we ask too many questions or follow-up questions or anything you want to say. This is our country, guys, and we need two people to learn that. Number one, we need, as the public, to learn that this is our country, and we need the politicians to understand this is our country. This is no longer your country and our country. This is our country. And if we do not like what's up in leadership, we need to go up there and change the trash that's on the Capitol Hills. If we don't like what's in our seat, we need to vote them out. If you cannot contact your politician right now that represents you, then I suggest you look at his opponent this next election cycle, because until you can talk to the guy that represents you, you're not being represented. So quit being like the little children leaving crap on the ground and blaming somebody else, and be a grown-up. Let's take over our country, let's clean house, and let's take this place back. And that's all I got to say about that. Back over to our guest today. Hello, Mr. Mitch Curtis. How you doing today?
I'm doing good.
So what do you think about my little monologue?
I think there's, I think it's true. It's formed by the people. So
exactly, and we sit here and we blame the government as if we have no accountability for our own actions. And yet, what happens is our country is slowly going in decline because of manipulation up here and because of ignorance down here. And we allow it to happen because we do not look at it as that is our people up there. We have control of that. So anyway, yeah, that's one of the things that I've noticed a lot of people gripe and they point the government. Well, guess what? We are the freaking government. So let's get back and get a hold of that. And what we've started here, trying to take our local government back into the people, and here you are talking to the people right now on VZTV. We've always had really good responses from local people that are elected around here. They come on this show and they get their point across, and what happens is, or what we try to hope to happen is, they educate the voter. That way, when things like the Paul Michael building pop up, it's not like, oh, we're just now hearing about this, and there were been workshops and community, but they didn't know about it until it hit social media. So yesterday, one of these big hot topics came up in the commissioner's court, and it was the creation of a groundwater district that, and I think it encompasses like 15 different counties. And before we get into diving too much into the commissioner's court and the conversation that was going on with that, because there's a lot to unwrap there, there was some high points that I think need to be explained, and you and I talked about this a little bit before. Number one, let's explain what this special groundwater district does and what its purpose is, so people, when they start to watch the commissioner's court in a second, they understand what they're talking about.
I think what probably initiated it was the Kyle Bass thing in Henderson County. Just these high velocity wells coming in, pumping so much water to the DFW Metroplex area, and not really knowing the impact, the long-term impact of those high velocity wells, what it would be on our community. We know that Dallas is coming this way. It's not just Dallas, really. It's coming from
all directions,
everywhere. I mean, out of state. We have a lot of people coming in out of state. So we've always been very fortunate to have the aquifer that we have.
Yes.
You can get in an airplane and fly from West Texas to East Texas, and I mean, I don't know if you've ever done that or not, but if you're looking at the ground, if you get a window seat and you can tolerate that, if you see something green, it's man-made.
Right.
Pretty much out there west of Dallas. And then as you come this way, you begin to see a mirror of water reflecting back at you. And as you get into East Texas, you have, the green pine trees, you'll begin to see the greenery. I had a man tell me one time, if you want to see our aquifer, you go to Wills Point and you start looking at the trees, and as you head east, they get bigger. So we've always been very fortunate to have that aquifer, but everything has limits. Everything has limits. There's what you can tap into it. So I think the idea of a groundwater conservation district is to protect that aquifer, to protect and control what's taken out of that aquifer.
And when we're talking about someone coming in and tapping an aquifer, we're talking, commercial guys coming in and taking millions and billions of gallons of water, and that leaves us fending for ourselves here in theory. Now, the 15 county special water district, what is the purpose of that district to do? Is it it's to give us representation, a little bit more bite in our voice when it comes to protecting this aquifer, right?
Well, ultimately, the legislators have to approve that. The people have to vote for that. Legislation approves it, and then it gives you the ability to, I guess basically, you would be testing. If people came in and wanted a permit for a high velocity well, they would have to prove that it wouldn't affect the groundwater around them so much. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So basically, it would, we do a whole lot of things without knowing we open Pandora's boxes all the time.
Oh yeah.
And most of the time, that's based on, when you look at high velocity wells being sent to DFW, that's going to be basically, the bottom line of that is money. Somebody's going to make a lot of money out of that.
Yeah.
But they're not, they don't necessarily care what happens to the community around that well,
Exactly.
So,
it's about dollar. Yeah. And so, when we start talking about this, there was two things mentioned. There was a 1 cent proposal, and then there was a taxation and fee proposal option for this thing. Explain a little bit more in that, because that's what was really discussed a lot yesterday also. Can you sort of clarify a little bit between those two?
So I think, first of all, I think all 15 counties, I think it's 15 or 17, but they all have to be on the same page. So basically,
thank you.
Basically, so if, say, Wood County decides they want to do the 1 cent tax on everybody to fund that, their groundwater conservation district, every county has to do it that way. So we all have to do it the same way.
Exactly.
So 1 cent, the 1 cent tax on everybody, or a usage tax on the people that are drilling the wells, the high velocity wells, and water systems.
And they were talking about metering those and all that stuff yesterday was another thing that.
And I think cities would be involved in that also.
Okay. So which way do you see, as a commissioner, do you think is a little bit more beneficial?
Well, I think what they said yesterday, it's almost a curse word to say tax now. You know.
Oh yeah, it definitely is.
It'll be very tough to get any tax across on the people. You know, that the people would support. So I think it's basically going to come down to the people that are wanting those high velocity wells. The usage of them would be paying a usage tax on those wells.
And of course, that could also come back into play when we start talking about these data centers and stuff like that. You know, Trump just came out yesterday, and I got my buddy James Cooley. I see he's watching over here. He sent me what Trump had said about the data centers and all that. Data centers are a curse word around here. You know, you start talking, bringing in data centers, best facilities, and that's a curse word out here. You know, these high velocities, they talk, I mean, from sort of what I'm reading, it almost looks like they're wanting to bring in nuclear reactors and you know, to power these things and stuff like that. It takes a lot of water to cool them. That's the reason why. That could come into play also, some of these big corporate data centers coming in. I mean, I don't know. I'm not familiar with the data center thing, except for I'm looking at the big picture. The whole AI thing is what's got me concerned. You know, the data centers, I believe that is just a footprint of something that we really have a bigger concern. I believe we got our head in the sand. But do you think that our aquifer could handle, even if we did put like someone come in like to feed Dallas, McKinney, something like that out of our aquifer, how stretched would that make us here in Van Zandt County? And I think it was you that said if we don't do it here in Van Zandt County and everybody around us does it, that puts a bullseye right there on our back. So is it sort of a situation where damned if we do, damned if we don't?
Yeah, I mean, I'm the last guy that wants to create another arm of government that we have to fund.
Right.
I mean, it's just like, but you know, I've talked to some pretty sound people, and you know, just talking to them, they're you know, the general consensus is no, we don't need larger government. I'm a smaller government person.
Amen to that.
But at the end of the day, you know, water is life, and we're just at a point in Texas right now, the way it's growing. I don't know, 10 years ago we were at 28 million people in Texas. Yeah. And I was in a meeting with a state agency, and they were projecting that within the next 20 years we'd be at 58 million. In Texas. Right. I don't know where we're at right now, but they're not going to West Texas.
Well, no. And
they're going to be in this corridor right here.
Yeah, and just like you pointed, you start in Wills Point and you head east, and it just gets prettier as you go. Mm-hmm. And so where does that bring? I mean, and you look at us. I mean, when my wife, she come from Houston, and we met online, and so when we first moved to Grand Saline, she thought we were out here in Egypt, and and I told her, I said it takes 15 minutes to get to Walmart. I said it takes an hour to get anywhere else. I said, but you'll get used to that. Right. Well, how many people do you know have been driving back and forth to downtown Dallas, Fort Worth, all these years, and are used to it? Mm-hmm. These communities, you start looking at some of these new houses built up in the county, they're not little bitty shacks. Right. I mean, they're 2 and 3 story big buildings and stuff like that. Big money coming down here. That's where it could become a threat. You know, you start talking about big money in this area. Does that big money have the same interest as our little money does? You know, say a corporate guy comes in, wants to tap into that aquifer. Some big money guy rubs elbows with him, dines with him, and says, hey, yeah, come right here in my backyard and put I've got 100 acres out here. Mm-hmm. Go for it. Right. Is there a way to stop that guy from getting in a personal contract with somebody?
When you talk about property rights.
Yeah.
That's tough. I mean, it seems like property rights trump everything. But when you're talking about whole communities being affected by someone's rights, then it gets. And I can say honestly, and I'm all for property rights, but if we do talk about, let's say, just somebody comes down here, buys property, and because if they've got the money to tap into the aquifer, they come out here and buy 200 acres, put a house on it, and say, hey, I'll put it in my own backyard. But then you're talking about sucking the water from out. Now I can make more of an argument that, okay,
property rights may be a little bit less on the scale when we're talking about sucking the groundwater dry, as opposed to an ugly BESS facility or a data center, going in somebody's yard. Unless, again, to cool that battery center or that data center, you've got to tap into the aquifer and that kind of thing. Because
there you go.
Corbin adjusted.
Yeah, that's all good.
But you know what I'm saying? It's like this is all about to come in, and I think it's about to collide. And
you have these green energy projects. They're government subsidized. They wouldn't even be happening if there's the data on them. There's the benefit to the cost of them. It's just not really there. I mean, and you look at, just for instance, technology progressing so fast, like the groundwork, the infrastructure they're putting in right now for like just take internet is going in right now everywhere on the ground. Fiber optic, and then you read reports that it'll be outdated before they all get it in. Elon Musk is so far out in front of everybody. With his
he double satellites up in space left and right, because he's while they're basically playing with Legos, he's up there with big toys and stuff.
And there's companies that are benefiting. There are people that are saying, "Hey, we can make a lot of money. Government subsidizing this." They don't think about us out here. Just living our little country dream. I was talking to Jeff Whitworth the other day, and he lives in our community, and I was asking him about data centers specifically because I had heard a rumor,
right?
That there might be one looking at the south end of the county. I'm like, and I wanted to know, like, how much water is that going to take? And he said, if it's a closed loop system, it's like a radiator on your car. How often do you put water in your radiator?
Right.
But he said, as far as the heat factor and the noise factor, he said it's significant. So. You look at all these things. You got a person that's lived on their property for 25, 30 years, and they listen to the whippoorwills at night, and then now that's over with. It's so, when I'm a free man until my actions negatively affect you. Yeah. And then there's,
And of course, like I said, it's a slippery slope. Yeah. Like I've always said, you don't want a BESS facility next door, but if you've ever lived next door to a hog farm, somebody that commercially produces hog, I'd rather have the BESS facility, honestly, because it may not smell as bad. But, at some point, common courtesy, I guess you could say, but
we're crumbling, though.
But common courtesy is gone.
That's where the biggest threat to society is society right now.
Yeah. Oh yeah, exactly.
We're crumbling as a people.
Yeah, we're literally eating upon ourselves, upon our freedoms,
morally.
And exactly.
So the more, I've said this a lot of times when people say, "Well, it's just a preacher in you," but this is just a fact. Laws are made for unrighteous people. They're not made for righteous people. So like if we're just thinking about our neighbor, for instance, I had some property come up for sale that I thought I would develop not long ago.
Right.
And immediately my first thought was, I know one of the people that live in that community. And I thought, do I need to go talk to him first?
Right.
Well, I'm not obligated by law to go talk to him. If I've got the money to buy it, I can go buy it.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
But my first thought was my neighbor. But the world don't operate that way.
Oh,
the first thought is the bottom line.
Yeah.
So that's what we're dealing with right now is on really every facet that we look at, solar fields, possibly data centers, whatever it is. The bottom line is what's driving people. It's not, they're not thinking about us here. And this water issue is the same thing. The bottom line is driving that.
Yeah.
The reservoir, it's getting tougher and tougher to get a reservoir in Texas. It's going to be tough around my house.
Right.
And so,
with this special water district, this is only 15 counties that are involved. The aquifer is massive. How many of these special water districts do you know span that? And have y'all talked to any of the other water districts about how they developed and how y'all?
I haven't. They're all, just listening to that lawyer yesterday. They're pretty, to get them through the legislature. They have to be pretty along the same lines, the way they're developed. And our aquifer, I think it begins, and I'm not sure about this because I've looked at those maps.
I think it's up around Arkansas somewhere,
it's
right?
Texarkana. It looks like
Texarkana,
it's in the Texarkana area, and it's a big aquifer, and it's fractured. Just talking to a friend of mine named Danny Ayers, it's fractured into millions of little aquifers that as they come south, they begin to converge on one another, and they get larger, and it's kind of like the Sabine River.
Yeah.
You know, we look at the Sabine River up here, and it looks like a river,
right?
And then you go south, and we realize we got a creek up here.
Exactly.
And as it further it goes south, the more
the closer it gets to where it.
Well, there's more feeding it.
Yeah.
So we're at the headwaters of it up here. But so our aquifer is like that to some degree underground, and I probably will be corrected by the end of the day on that. But, that's how I understand it.
Right.
So. Just talking to him, he said because it's so fractured up here, it'd be hard to have a high velocity well that like Mr. Bass is talking about in this area.
Right.
Not impossible, but it'd be really tough to be able to. It would almost cavitate itself.
That's what I was going to get at. You were talking about it was almost like an earthquake they mentioned up there and stuff like that. What are some of the risks now that you've brought that up that could be happening if somebody come in here and irresponsibly or out of ignorance just did the wrong thing?
And I think that's where like your water district comes in, where it says, we've done a study here and you could possibly cause something catastrophic to happen if you pulled that much water out. Right. So they could limit him on how much water. In other words, you would have to give it time to recharge. So that water is flowing through that sand.
Right.
And you'd have to give wherever you're trying to pull it at, you'd have to be giving it time to recharge. All these wells in these towns, they can't run 24/7.
Exactly.
That's why they have several different wells, and they've got one that's pumping out of one part of the aquifer while the other one's shut down.
Right.
Or it's full and this one's pumping, and so I think, that, so basically what I think is if you over pumped in this part of the aquifer, this is what I think, like I'm not a hydrologist.
Right.
I think you would have trouble over pumping, but as that converges down, just like the Sabine River gets bigger, I think there are areas where you could pump a whole lot, but you could cavitate it down there also.
Yeah.
And cavitating it in an area where the river's bigger,
probably more catastrophic.
That's right. So, and then everything downstream of that would be shut off.
And you had several that stood up yesterday in the public participation. One of them was a rancher farmer. Then you had Garza. Stood up and he talked sort of what you're talking about right here. And then you had the mayor of Van, Ernie Burns, stood up and he was talking about the taxation and the fairness of cities versus all this. What is it that you heard that was basically the best argument that you heard all day yesterday? Was it from the cattleman? Was it from the water guy, or was it from the fairness guy? As to what you said, you brought up some really good points that I didn't think about. I'm going to take those with me, and as I move forward in my research, I'm going to look into that.
Ernie has good questions.
Yeah,
I don't know if he does a lot of thinking.
He does,
and I don't always agree with Ernie on some things, but. But his questions are always valid. That's the thing. I know he actually called me yesterday and he said, "What about one of our cities that is pulling out of Lake Tawakoni?" He said, "Why would y'all charge them to be on this water? Why would you tax them? Are we going to tax these cities that are not pulling out of wells?"
Right.
And I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, so I don't know. When I think different than a lot of people. I get down to basic necessities like, okay, here's a farmer and he's growing something that we all eat, sweet potato farmer, or a guy that's growing hay for beef, or dairy. We're the only species on the planet that's still drinking milk in their 40s, but we make cheese and a whole lot.
I have never been a milk fan, so
a
not
whole
me.
lot of things, but then and so we have that, and like those are good, valid points. No, do we tax those people that are trying to make a living? Do we regulate those? Yeah, I don't know. I can tell you right now that there are tree farms in our county are pulling more water than any city.
Oh yeah.
They're pumping 24/7. So I don't know like valid arguments for and against it. I don't think I heard anybody against it yesterday. They just want to make sure that we didn't hurt the agriculture end of
Right.
it. That's what I heard mostly from Clayton Conway was, doing his job.
Yeah.
He's taking care of the farmers and so we, there's basic necessities, air, food, and water.
Yeah. And you brought up the nurseries, and of course dairy farms were brought up yesterday as well as, some of the concerns that they could be affected by some of these districts. And what is something that, as you move forward, what consideration can you put forward to sort of protect because our nurseries, they're big business around here, our dairy farms, big business. How do you protect them as you move forward in this? And get that across to all, because I mean, from what I understood yesterday, Van Zandt County can't just come in and say, okay, we got this list of demands, this list of demands, this list of demands, let's plug it in there, because it's got to be okayed across all 15. It's got to be uniform across all 15 counties, right?
Right. Yeah, it does. So it has to be like them. There can be some small variations, but if we get too far out of line, it's just not going to happen. And truthfully, we don't want to create too much legislation inside of a bill. I mean, it just gets confusing and convoluted and challenged, and
because everywhere you sway from the status quo, you've got to explain that sway.
We're probably just going to have to leave the agriculture end of it alone.
Right.
I mean, that's my personal belief right now. Is I don't see any way. I'm kind of like Richard Garza. He said, I don't want to quote him verbatim, but basically the conversation was, I don't know a better way to protect the aquifer than to have a groundwater district. He said, if there's a better way to do it, somebody
Right.
show me a better way. If we can't, so like people can be against something, but if they don't have a better option, then I like this option.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't want to get involved in messing with the agriculture people, especially if everybody else is not doing it.
Exactly.
We just need to roll on. I'm concerned, I'm not going to go out and eat oak tree.
Right. Exactly.
I'm concerned about it, but those companies that are grandfathered in, they've made significant investments and they're making a living off those things, and we don't need to create anything that would hurt them.
Exactly.
So
especially in an agriculture community. I mean, you come in and take a swipe at an ag community. I mean, you can almost put a community in a ghost town status.
Yeah.
Julio said they need to find a different way to cool their systems, data centers, surveillance centers. You can anything about everything online. I guess he's trying to say you can see and learn anything you want to about it online. Thank you, Julio, for jumping in there. He's with VZ Equipment Rental. He's over there watching us, and
So listen to this. Can I just tell you something?
Go for it.
So I'm talking to Jeff Whitworth again. We're talking about it, and he said the heat's significant. Like you can feel it from 100 yards. And the noise is very significant. But he said in Bastrop, Elon Musk has bought a bunch of property in Bastrop and is basically setting up shop there, and he's talking about putting data centers in outer space. And he said they don't have to have a cooling system up there, and he said they can be solar charged. So, it's just catching up with all that, before we do damage here.
Yeah.
So
and of course, a lot of these things in development, they're years and years. When they start talking about filling up every vacant inch of Texas, that's years out, and heck, by then they may have it on Mars, where they're putting data centers up there on Mars, and I mean with the way of advancement. So was there one thing that you wanted to hear yesterday about the groundwater district that you didn't exactly get your question answered? Or
I didn't. There was no opposition yesterday, which I thought was unusual.
Right.
I thought somebody would come in, somebody concerned about our rights, the Constitution, giving more control to the government. Because I want to hear those things. So
yeah.
I was kind of, coming over here today, I thought, well, Ryan will give us that perspective,
right?
Because he's going to always take the other, Ryan's going, he's going to have the other side,
Oh yeah.
And I know that there are some people that are going to come at me about it, and I want to hear from them.
Yeah.
I do want to hear from them. I don't want to be cussed at about it.
Right.
But,
well, it's just like when the BEST facility come down and I had a reporter at the time, and I told him, I said, I want you to find the guy that wants to put the facility on his property.
Right.
Well, he never came up to me with nobody. Will come to find out, J.P. Fisher, the guy I grew up with, was one of them. And so you've seen he's been on the show multiple times talking about it. And you know, and that's where my mind, you know, like we were joking about us being libertarians a little bit a while ago, but you know, that's where my mind instantly goes. You know, now that's my property. You know, if I want to put an oil well out there and make sure Corbin and Katie and Brayley and Miles live the rest of their lives happy, I should be able to do that. You know. And so I come from that property rights, because you mentioned Pandora's box. Mm-hmm. I've said that. My slogan is every law is a Pandora's box. We make it for a good, but it gets abused. Yep. And then next thing you know, you're fighting to figure out how to manage it. And so, but this utility district, I think it strikes a little bit different chord because it's water. Mm-hmm. Everybody knows you got to have a couple things to live. You got to have water, air, and food. And, you know, you can't have...
And coffee, and that's partly water.
Amen. You see, I'm double fisting water, one of them coffee flavored.
I know, that's right.
But you know, so... And we just got done with the Sling Creek debacle. You know, we just overcome that. And so I think maybe the opposition may not quite be so loud, because we're seeing the questions. Van has been struggling with water issues for years now, with putting in wells and not having enough. So I think a lot of people, you know, they're worried about that, you know, and they don't want to see that. AI is unknown. They don't understand that yet. Most people still worried about that. And so when we start talking about all this stuff, I don't think a whole lot of people will step up and say, hey, you know what? Screw the water. We don't need that. You know, I think that's why the opposition's really not there. But like you said, you saw the passion of guys that weren't opposed to it, but they wanted to be sure there were guardrails in place, because anytime you get the government involved, we all know that works out perfectly. You know, it never goes south.
And I know that like Richard Garza, his mindset's already there. Like he knows that, which I mean, he's not going to be our representative there, but I'm hoping that he's somewhat in that wheelhouse.
Yeah,
you know, working through that.
I understood the lawyers' sort of concern about that. I think when somebody comes in as a specialist, I sort of disagreed with him a little bit on that. I didn't know if, but like, you know, I think it would have been good to have someone that understood the lingo, knew the jive, to be as a representative on that. And he was talking about that client attorney privilege. I mean, I still think I
had a lawyer reach out to me last night and said he's wrong about that.
I was pretty sure he was, because I was sitting there thinking, man, people do it all the daggum time. Auditors, number one. Auditors all the time come in, get hired.
Which bothered me after I had another lawyer call, you know, like reach out to him and say well, I'm not going to tell you what he said, but like, you know, it bothered me. It just, the statement bothered me.
Yeah, and so I think that by tabling that yesterday, y'all did a good thing, because I think that there is an avenue there where that can be placed. Because I mean, and I'm not saying anything against anybody on the committee itself, but when you send somebody into because there's a lot of information going to be shared. There's going to be a lot of. It's best to have somebody that's fluid in that kind of lingo, and like you saw yesterday, we were asking as many questions as the public was as a council. So it's 10:30 now. Let's go ahead and roll over to our lunch specials, Corbin, and we'll take a look at our weather real quick. And then when we get back, we're going to roll on in and we'll start watching the commissioner's court. And we got a couple of topics to talk about here. And then we'll get back a little bit also. There was a lot of just sort of housekeeping that didn't take much time. We'll go through the agenda real quick, and then we'll see some of what went on yesterday. Go ahead and roll that. We got Milano's Pizza over there in Grand Saline, guys. Y'all be sure if you want fried chicken, if you want pizza. I always tell you the best pizza that they make is the chicken Alfredo with jalapenos. That's my family favorite. They've got the family special over there, guys. But anyway, y'all go check out Milano's Pizza over in Grand Saline, right off Highway 80. You're not going to regret it. Good pizza. So y'all go check them out. Also, we've got, I think it's Trax coming up next. Yeah, Trax, we got coming on. It looks like Peach Kicking Chicken is what we got on the thing. And she said, read that. I can't read that. Can you read that for me, Corbin or Katie, over there underneath that picture? The description. Okay, anyway, I'm just going to tell you right now, them ladies know how to cook, and it's all from scratch. So you're not going to regret it. See if you can hide. There we go. Now, zoom it up a little bit more. It says grilled chicken breast glazed with our sweet southern peach barbecue sauce, layered with creamy jalapeno pepper spread and served on a buttery garlic bun. And it looks like there's beans and mashed taters there, or potato salad, something like that. 2 sides and a drink, $14.99. Anyway, right as you cross the train tracks and coming into Grand Saline, you'll see the mural on the side of the wall. Pull up there, time it just right, and you get to go get you a toot and a scoop, because if a train goes by and you're first in line, you get a free scoop of ice cream. They also got dirty sodas and pup cups over there. So go check out the 2 Salty Broads over there at Tracks General Store and Mercantile, and y'all enjoy some good scratch cooking. Also, August 8th, we've got a big East Texas Heroes convention going on over there in Canton on the First Monday grounds. We're going to have a booth set up. We're going to be shooting live. Y'all come over there. Y'all check us out. Sit with us. Be a part of the program. Sonic from Grand Saline is going to be giving out free coupons and stuff like that. So y'all come over there and check us out. But there's going to be a car show. There's going to be a military show. There's going to be a swap meet. Guys, it is a free event. Y'all come check it out. It's going to be fun. And if nothing else, you're free because the fellers that are there, the people that'll be there representing their service, and the men and women that were on that battlefield, y'all come by and say hi, thank you for our freedom, because it's because of them that we're able to be here. And what else we got, Corbin? All right. And if you call Sherman Floor Care, you get 20% off. So be sure and tell Sherman that you heard about them on VZTV. You get 20% off any of your services done. And also VZ Equipment Rental, 15% off if you call them up. And I'm tell you what, and this man right here knows heavy equipment. If you take a backhoe home for a week and you dig a pond, 15% is a big chunk of money, ain't it? So y'all be sure to go down there and see Julio. And like I said, he's in Sweet D down there, but I tell him just go in there and call him Sweet D, and he'll blush a little bit and give you a better deal. So y'all go down there and see old Julio and call him Sweet D and make him blush a little bit. Let's kick up Sonic 7 big meal deal. We want to say y'all go over there at Grand Saline Sonic and y'all buy the 7 meal deal. And if you talk to them on the intercom, tell them that VZTV sent you. They wanted to get this meal out, and they want to really make it hit. So you guys go over there, get the 7 meal deal at the Grand Saline Sonic, or go over to Edgewood Sonic. That's also owned by the same people. So y'all go get the 7 meal deal at Sonic today. It looks good. I think that's where I'm headed after I get out of here. And then, guys, right there, you see that little deal right there. That's how we stay on air. That's our Venmo and Cash App. If you want to run a business, you can Venmo and Cash App us, and you can tell us that you want to run your ad on the air. Give us a call. If you want to donate, man. We're trying to pay those 2 guys over there. You can ask Mitch. He's been sitting here watching our whole production and stuff like that. Everything y'all see on the air, that's because of them 2 over there, and we want them to stick with us so we can continue to improve. So we're trying to pay them. So guys, if you got $5-10 extra bucks, just go over there, scan one of those, and send us a little bit of money. We'll put it into production. Give him a little bit of gas to make it back over here tomorrow so we can shoot the show again. And the weather today, it looks like we got a little bit of chance of rain later on in this afternoon. It is definitely, I was listening to the WBEP coming in, and it sounded like down around south they're having a bunch of rain come in through there. They talking 30 inches of rain possible, worse than the flooding that happened July 4th last year that took out Camp Mystic. So guys, y'all be careful. Governor Abbott's already addressed it a couple of different times, and the rain evidently is not going to stop. So we're probably going to get a little bit of that moisture coming through. It's actually been a pretty wet July. June and July, July started off pretty wet. So anyway, you see the temperatures up there, guys. I told y'all I used to stand over there in the weather center and do this whole Cody Gottschalk impersonation. Well, the second or third day I said it wasn't going to rain. It rained. I said, you know what? I'm going to save the hate mail for him. I get enough of it on my own. This is the app that's on my computer, and we say, hey, y'all got the same thing. So if I'm wrong, you're wrong. We're all wrong, and you can't hate on me. But that's what my prediction shows that we're going to have. And let's kick up some gas prices up there, Bubba. The gas is steadily kicking up. Did you not have that one queued? Well, it's going up. It was $3.43 yesterday at some places. I think, there we go, at $3.66. I mean, it's that whole Iranian thing over there is kicked back up, and The gas prices are heading back towards the $4 range. Guys, with gas prices high, this is more important than ever. See, we use Gas Buddy. Y'all can go to your local, your corner store market, even if you don't buy gas there. Just put the gas prices up in there, and that way we can show y'all where the cheapest gas prices are, so that way you can actually maybe go save a couple bucks and buy you some ramen for supper, because if you like the rest of us, we all starving out here. So, all righty, Bubba Dubba. And I guess that's about all we got. Guys, if you see any of these ads on the side over here, go shop them. It's because of these guys right here that we're able to come and do this every single day. This is not easy. I mean, I'm taking 2 hours out of my day of working the beat and all that stuff out there. So you guys go thank them, because of them, I get to come over here and do this and play Anchorman, Ron Burgundy right here. All right, Bubba, let's throw the commissioner's court up there. Do y'all have it queued up pretty much right there where it starts? All right. If you look right there, that at the podium right there, that is Ernie Burns. It's right there at the podium. Is this where it starts off, Corbin? Okay, he's telling me no. He's going back trying to find it. There's Nancy White. We had several speakers up there yesterday. The guy that you'll hear on, what was his name? Sledge. What was his first name?
Brian? Is it Brian Sledge?
Brian Sledge. Okay, I know it said Scott Slayton on the deal, and I told everybody it was Scott Slayton, and then I was like, no, that's Sledge. But we had Ernie Burns, which is the Van Mayor, spoke yesterday. Richard Smith spoke about a vehicle that he wanted to be sure he could inventory, so he wanted everything to hold off till after the first. And then we had Nancy White, Richard Garza, Mr. Conway, and Doc Collins all spoke on the water district. So we had a lot of people that came up and spoke on it. And so let's just sort of step in here and listen a little bit about what's going on, and Mitch can sort of give us a little feedback of what he was thinking while he was up there on the bench.
No, it's not.
I realize that sometimes these things can get contentious, given the last 18 months and what all went down with the reservoir project. But given the fact that there's no support for groundwater projects, at least here in the county, maybe groundwater projects, surface water projects, excuse me, here in the county, there's a need that's come to my attention. Region C to our west, which encompasses the Dallas-Fort Worth area, has in its plans, at least in concept anyway, and on paper, that should they need additional water for the Metroplex and Region C, and surface water is getting hard to create and obtain, that they have the idea to come into Henderson County, Van Zandt County, and Wood County and drill high-capacity water wells and drill it down into our aquifer. And then, because they cannot bring that water to the surface, it becomes surface water, they intend to pipe that water from those well fields over to Cedar Creek Reservoir, to Lake Fork, or Lake Tawakoni. So
pause that right there, Corbin. He said he couldn't bring it to the surface because it becomes surface water. What is the purpose of that statement?
Well, I'm not sure what I understand about that, but basically in their long-term plans, the DFW is targeting our counties,
right?
Our groundwater, and what they're going to do with that is they're going to drill high capacity wells and put them in the lakes that they already own a certain amount of acre feet.
Right.
You know? So like the city of Dallas, I could be wrong about this, but I spoke to the man at the pump house over there at Lake Fork. City of Dallas owns the first 7 feet of the water of Lake Fork.
Oh, wow.
You ever seen that big pumping facility they have over there? Yeah. So
I remember when we had that drought several years back, they pumped Lake Fork almost down. I mean, it got low there for a while.
So the governor has allocated a lot of money for water projects. So that infrastructure money would be there if they needed it to be able to basically pump that water to those lakes so they can continue to get their surface water acre feet. And what he's talking about there is simply what we're all talking about. We don't have anything in place to protect us from that.
Right.
So they're already looking in their long-term plans that would be an option for them. A groundwater conservation district might force them to take it out of their plans.
Right. Right, Corbin?
Unfortunately, depends on which way you want to look at it. We've had a blessing and an abundance of water, and we'll continue to have that. We're one of 2 regions in the state that look to have a surplus of water available to us over the next 50 years. But we've got to protect it from exploitation, from those that seek to benefit from it financially. And since there's no, like I say, no support for surface water projects, it even becomes more critical to support that groundwater and protect it. I know that it's additional government. A lot of it looks like government overreach, especially since we haven't had a GCD. We're the only region in the state out of the 16 regional water planning groups. We're the only one that does not have a GCD at all inside of it.
Bullseye.
And so I think the time has come, unfortunately, that limited government or not, we're going to have to create one.
Because if we don't, then it's open territory. It's open game. It's the Wild West.
But I want to thank the commissioners and the judge for taking the lead on this. I spoke to Representative Hefner at our last Region D board meeting, and I asked him to reach out to our elected officials, both here in the county and at the state level. My hope is that going forward, we conduct it in as transparent a manner as we possibly can, because the last thing we need to do is create some kind of, incentive for any kind of opposition to it, when it ultimately will stand to benefit every resident of the county, whether they know it or not. It's there. How we fund it, how we create it is very, very important. I think the legislation, how that is drafted, is going to be very, very critical to, one, it being accepted by the voters. And I think that's another message that needs to be brought out there, that before there's any just overwhelming opposition, the voters on this issue, ultimately, even if that legislation passes down in Austin, the voters of this county must adopt and pass that legislation, or we don't have a GCD at all. So they do have the final say, and I think that's appropriate, but they need to be included in the process to understand what's at stake.
When do they plan on voting on this groundwater district?
We're in the formation of it right now. I think we'll get that formed where we have voted on it, and then it'll have to go to the public.
Voters,
I don't know if I doubt it'll be November. It'll probably be in the next year in May.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think we would have time to get it in. Then I don't think we'd have time.
It looks like there's a whole lot of I's to dot and T's to cross before we get there.
You can tell that he studied. He's well versed in what he's.
And just to clarify, that's Richard Garza, and he works with the
Region D
Water District. So he's not a dummy when he speaks up. He's plugged into that kind of thing, and that's the one that the commissioners wanted to send as their representative, and the lawyer sort of put the kibosh on that and requested against it. And so that's what we were talking about earlier when we spoke, that he said he had another lawyer call him up and said that wasn't exactly accurate. So
I think it would be a good gesture. I think one of the things we lost last year as a court was the trust of the people.
Right.
Generally speaking.
Yeah.
Part of that's accusations on Facebook. Part of it's people are suspicious of the government now.
Period. Yeah.
And part of it was we didn't communicate as a court very well with the public on the Paul Michael building.
Yeah.
There were some mistakes made there, and I think everybody would own up to that.
Oh yeah. I've asked everybody, and there's not been a single one that's come in this chair that has said we did that perfectly, and everybody's overreacted. Nobody has even acted like that, and so like I said, and that's one of those things. If you can look back at it and say we played it perfectly, then you're not too honest with yourself.
Well, I can't remember what bill it was they were trying to pass on a federal level, and they said, well, we have to pass the bill to be able to read it, see what's in it. And that sounds like, the average person goes, oh my God, like,
yeah,
but sometimes like we make a decision on an idea because we feel like we're pressed. Right now, I feel like there's a window of time that we have to get this done. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah,
we need to probably move on it because other counties are moving on it, and it's going to go forward with or without us.
Well, and we've brought up the business aspect. A businessman up there, if he's eyeballing this area to put water wells in to get down into that aquifer, and he just said we're the only county that isn't a part of this district right here in this region, like you said, bullseye, and they're going to rush to beat that because if they get in before us taking this in, then
possibly grandfathered in.
Exactly. So.
But I think it would be a good faith gesture if we could somehow get a guy like him, Mr. Garza, involved in that.
Yeah.
Just as a good faith gesture to the community to say, look, we're not hiding anything. You guys trust it.
Is there a way to 1099 him in at $1 and bring him in as a consultant?
The strange thing is like he's volunteering. Like he's got his own life.
Exactly.
That's going to be it's just like what you're doing here today. It's going to be a big part of his life, and he's going to be giving that to the county. He's offered to give that to the county. So, I don't know. He's already on a board,
right,
for the state, and it's a pretty significant position.
Oh yeah, well, and he's always knee deep, and anytime, even when y'all were dealing with that Saline Creek thing going on, he was right up there at the forefront of that, and that was one of the things that sort of got him introduced in this area.
I would not have known nearly. In other words, the first time that the lake came up was in 2004.
Yeah.
And I was offended by it. Like I was not offended, but I was concerned about it because it's our heritage.
Uh-huh.
And we live on Saline Creek. So,
right.
And I thought about it and I thought, the needs of the many sometimes outweigh the needs of the few.
Right.
There's an eminent domain in our the history of the United States because there's a purpose for it in some aspects. But then I began to talk to him, and just ask him, what are the needs? What's the capacity? Just to basically getting information. And I would not have taken as strong a stand without the information that he had.
Right.
Like,
back when I first started, I mean, literally, I had just broke into the editor seat. So this is probably 2013, maybe. Lynn Melton came to me, and he dropped a big old stack of stuff that was this right here. And I mean, by the time I got to looking into it really good, it had pretty much dropped. Mm-hmm. And then after that point, I never heard anything else about it. And of course, me not living out there amongst it, and I was brand new to the newspaper. I hadn't heard about it up until this point. And so it rock and roll along here, and then all of a sudden, a year ago comes by, and all of a sudden it's back in the news again. I'm like, holy cow, Mr. Melton told me about this when I first started with the deal. So that was at least attempt number 2 that I'm aware of. Yeah. Has this thing settled? Because I mean, I'm hearing, different, like some people say, oh yeah, it's gone, it's settled, it's done. We done won that battle. But I've heard that. I've
not been able to verify that they have pulled their permit application. I think it's still at.
That's what I
think it's still at TCEQ, and I think it's going to be a dead thing, but no, I'm not sure about that.
Yeah, and I haven't, the people that are saying yes, then I turn around and talk to somebody, and man, it ain't done. I mean, I've said on air, and somebody, well, it ain't done yet. They've still got an application up there, and I haven't been able to figure it out.
I'm the kind of guy, like, I don't want that to happen to anybody.
Right.
I talked to Brent Money. I'm like, y'all need to change the laws on eminent domain. And we had just a short conversation about it. And I said, well, if you can't change the laws on eminent domain, because sometimes it is necessary, then you need to pay those people 200, 300% of what their property value is
110%.
You're asking them to leave their home, livelihood, relocate. Just the amount of pressure and cost to that is not taken into account when they're making you offers on your property.
Yeah.
But also, I made a commitment to myself that it would be one of the things that's in my range of view. Right now, I think in Van Zandt County, I believe that the city of Van's fixing probably to drill another well.
Right. And that's not cheap.
No, it's not. And, Ernie asked me about some things about that also. What's the tax going to be on that well if they drill, he wanted to know. I mean, he's got good questions. I don't know if you ever had him on your show before.
I haven't. Matter of fact, yesterday was the first time I'd actually laid eyes on the guy, and of course he was the most vocal out of the whole bunch yesterday, especially when it come to the 1 cent versus the tax, and he was talking about the meters and stuff like that, and how it affected it. Somebody in the comments made a comment. Ernie's always going to be a van first guy.
He is,
and
he's doing his job.
And so he's going to fight. Which, I mean, y'all, is there any towns in Van Zandt County that are surface water? Everybody's got wells, right?
Well, Wills Point is surface water.
Oh, okay.
And I think Edgewood is.
Okay.
I think they're pulling both out of Tawakoni.
Oh, okay. So surface water, as it sits right now, is that what he's arguing about?
Well, I was just curious. Are they going to have to pay the tax if we which I can tell you right now, my gut tells me that we're not going to go 1 cent tax on. We're not going to put a tax on the community.
Right.
It's going to be the people that are using it in high capacity.
Yeah.
But I think that was a good question. I think he wanted also to know, about the new well and just different things. But my mind is like right now, Grants Lean's having water problems.
Yep.
I think you're aware of that.
Oh,
probably.
Yeah.
You still live in Grants Lean?
Oh yeah, I still live same place I've lived.
You look at Facebook and people are putting pictures of their water and
that's another thing that I don't understand. I've got neighbors that live 2 houses down from me, and they talk about dirty water, blah blah blah. This cup, and you can ask that boy right over. I fill it up out of my tap every single day, and I'm not even talking about out of my refrigerator with filtered water because we had a leak, and so I wound up turning that one off. So I get the ice out of the freezer. I go over to my tap and I put water in here, and I drink it every single day, 4 or 5 times a day. I fill this thing up.
That's why you're so healthy. You're getting all the minerals.
Well, believe it or not, I've had people tell me, well, I was told it's because of water, just drinking that much water. But it wouldn't surprise me if it wasn't the minerals. So, I know I see the pictures. You can't refute the pictures and stuff like that. But when we start talking about basic needs of life, you got to have good quality water, period. And water through sand filtrations and stuff like that, when it's under the ground, it's as pure as it's going to get. Getting it from there up here and into the houses, the infrastructure, that's a whole different conversation. Which Brandon Barton brought up that little CAD thing that he was talking about to help with infrastructure in different areas and stuff like that. That's a whole different conversation. But like surface water, like Fork and all that stuff, aren't they fed from the aquifer?
No, they're mostly capture. Like
okay,
it's
okay. I wasn't for sure if they're spring fed from the aquifer or if they were capture. So that right there is a debate. Do you pay the tax for the greater good, or do you
I just think that I don't know. I think if the aquifer gets depleted, we will all suffer. Whether we're surface water or not.
Or food.
If the water table goes down, your lakes are going to go down.
Yeah.
That just naturally happens. But, you can look at little ponds. The same thing happens to ponds. If the water table's high, your ponds and lakes sustain better. But we need to be looking, and I made a commitment to myself, to be looking where is water available that's not being used. Toledo Bend is one of those. It's 170 miles as a crow flies,
right,
to get it to Van Zandt County. And I don't know all the legal aspects of the county getting involved in the water business.
Right.
But there's certain things that we need to be in, and there's certain things that we need to be out of.
Right.
Exactly. What I'm saying? And so, Toledo Bend, there's a battle going on for Toledo Bend right now. But there's been 38, I don't know if it was 38 million. I don't know how much was allocated towards infrastructure for water, but I'm looking all the time. And I have some pretty good leads right now. Actually, I can't talk about them, but I've been given some pretty good leads, and I'm going to keep looking, because if there is a problem, and I believe there is in some areas.
Oh yeah.
I think west of Canton has a problem, and
well, in the long-term picture, we all got a problem. In the long-term picture, we've got to figure out how to manage this, because if we don't figure out how to manage it properly, then we're all, like you said, it's not just our drinking water. It's our food, our vegetables, our meat. Everything comes from that. Water's in everything. Your coffee, that's a staple. You have to have that.
Well, their developers look at our county and say, it's an agricultural county. There is a lot of land that's not being used.
Right.
But there's not infrastructure here to build it.
Exactly.
So people say, we need to build our community. You got a portion of the county of people saying, we need to grow the county. Shop owners build it. We need to grow the county. We need more people here. We need more people. And then you have a large group of people that resist that. And they say, we moved out here to get away from that mess.
Yep.
Okay. So then a developer comes in and says, we'd like to develop this, but the infrastructure is not there. That's why that best system is not over there right now. One of the reasons is because there's not water over there to cool it. if it were to catch on fire. But so a person says, well, I'm buying this 100-acre tract of land, and this water system falls. I fall within this water system's area that it's supposed to supply to. But they're not required to put the infrastructure in to, like the city of Van's not required in their ETJ to put the infrastructure in to feed me if I want to develop a piece of property. They're not required by law to do that. Now if I put the infrastructure in, they would be required.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. And you're talking about like running a water line to their nearest.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you put a 6 or 8 inch main, that's a pretty significant amount of money to do that. But they're not by law required to do that for us.
Right.
So, I look at it maybe different than a lot of people, but it's not our job as a community to pay for someone to develop a piece of property.
No, I mean you're basically helping them.
You want to come in here and make your millions, you're going to have to put some up front.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
if it's not available, it's not available.
Yeah.
That's not our problem either. Like if it's not available, it's not available. So, if a city, just for instance, if Canton, if it's wanting to grow its city, that's fine. Find a way to do that, but don't come over here in my backyard. Like, it doesn't have to be Canton. It could be Grants Land or any city.
Right.
Well,
Van Zandt County, and you get a lot of voices on the conversation in here that talk about we want to keep our county rural, and then at that point you got like, well, how are you going to keep people out? I mean, aside from just not selling your land, and you can't stop people from selling their land
in property rights.
Exactly. So to stop them would be virtually impossible to stop the growth.
I don't think it's our job. Like that piece of property that sold in front of my house that they subdivided. If I didn't, I had one of my neighbors said, if I even thought they were going to do that, I would have bought that. And I said, well, get ready. If there's road frontage and water available, they're going to be subdivided.
And if you look at it, we've got Tyler coming this way. We've got Dallas coming this direction. I mean, literally, this area is going to soon be consumed. Look at Lindale. Look at Terrell. Look at Forney. I mean, they're being consumed slowly but surely. And like I said, you're seeing the houses that are popping up 2 and 3 stories from people that got the money to make that move early coming out here.
Well, we built a subdivision northeast of Van, and a lot of the people that build in there or buy in there, they're working from home.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And I noticed on the agenda, there was another subdivision being approved yesterday, voted on. Let's see, where was it? The Post Oak Estates subdivision on 3908. Did y'all approve that one? And so there's another one that's
they have to go through a pretty stringent amount of work to get to our court.
Right.
And there's some things in check that protect the buyer and the developer, and will serve letters and just commitments that people make, electricity, water, road frontage,
right,
drainage. Now, for instance, here's one that's kind of interesting, but out on 1255 between 1652 and Corinth, there's a big subdivision that just went in over there. There's 35 lots that are about 5 to 10 acre lots. Well, that was the first one that I know of that we required them to drill a static well and test the aquifer to see what kind of demand it could tolerate. Right. And the developers came in and said, Corinth's got a well right here.
Yeah.
Like we know the aquifer's good here, but we wanted to know how it would affect the groundwater levels.
Yeah.
If you got a well on the other side of the fence from them, if it drops down below where you've got your perforated line, where you could lose your water or your water pressure. So
I like that. So are y'all going to sort of make that sort of standard practice?
It's actually state law that if it's over 10, I don't know what the criteria is as far as the acreage, but if it's over a subdivision over 10, that we're supposed to be doing that.
Right.
So like that one, the one you're looking at had four lots on it.
Yeah.
But I've had them come in, developers come in and take a piece of property and subdivide it because they didn't, like if you think about it, it costs a lot of money to build a subdivision, just the infrastructure in it. And because they didn't want to build a road into the subdivision, they made their lots 70, 80 foot wide and 500 foot deep.
Yeah.
You're devaluing property in the community when you do that.
Yeah, exactly.
So can I stop that? No. Can I encourage something else?
Yeah.
Yes.
Because y'all can't come in and put a minimum lot size diameter. It's got to be this by this, or at least. So, and when these developers come in, what sort of, I guess, controls do y'all have over them to make sure that, because I mean, they can come in and just buy 20 acres and put a bunch of rundown trailer houses out there and make a trailer park out in the middle of the county, or they come
like yesterday, Cliff had wanted to put their subdivision restrictions up front in the approval process. They had to be filed so we could see, so that it's to protect the community and the buyer. Because if they have no restrictions, anything could happen.
Exactly.
Like the one in front of my house, which is called the Watson Estates, all of their outbuildings have to be beside or behind their house. They can't have, a yard full of cars, a car full of yards. They can't. There's certain things that are put in place there to protect property values and to protect the community. Now, here's the kicker: nobody enforces that. The community itself, the subdivision, has to enforce that itself in civil court.
Yeah.
You get tired of your neighbor chickens running all over you, you go to your subdivision regulations, and you'd end up in civil court over that.
Right.
But so we're not a regulatory agency. We put things in place to try to protect the buyer and the seller. Really,
but beyond that is mainly civil.
Pretty much civil. Yeah. Which is terrible because our courts are overrun right now.
Exactly.
It's just a terrible thing. Like always goes back to whether we're a moral people or not.
Yeah. And I tell my wife all the time, I say, everybody is so shocked that this world does what this world does. Have we not forgotten what the world has done since its creation?
Right.
I mean,
that's right.
We had a murderer within 3 people on this earth. I mean,
that's right.
And so, a couple other things that I wanted to highlight that y'all discussed yesterday was, one of them was y'all had to raise your budget for fuel and lubricants yesterday by $66,000 due to the increase of fuel prices.
That was that was just the sheriff's office.
Yeah, and
to make it through the year.
And so the budget restraints, that hurts the budget a little bit there. Where does does that? How does that affect us when, we set the budget, gas is at $3, now it's at almost $4? How do y'all adjust for that?
Well, we have the judge has a contingency, or the county has a contingency,
right?
For emergencies, and I would say, I'm not saying that was called an emergency, but if the sheriff is having to walk to his calls,
right,
you're probably gonna have an emergency.
Exactly.
So basically, when things like that happen, there's supposed to be, which I don't know what's in that contingency fund. We have an emergency fund where, if something catastrophic happened, we could run the county for 6 months. It's supposed to be about $6 million.
Exactly.
It's a reserve. It's not state law, but it's good practice.
Yeah.
And so we have that, and then we normally have a contingency that we can, if things get bad enough, we can go to and pull out of. I think Bobby got some of that yesterday also.
Right.
But so, it's legitimate. I mean, there are people that come to us. I think I told you earlier today. I think there's, when we're having budget hearings, and departments are coming to us wanting things, giving us our Christmas. We call it a Christmas list.
Right.
Sometimes it's legitimate, and sometimes it's legitimate, and there's just nothing you can do about it.
Yeah. Well, you made a comment that there was a request for how much more? Don't quote me on this, but I think it was 1.8 million, and just in new positions. Right.
That's what's been asked for so far. 1.8. It's out of reach.
Yeah.
It's just not there. It's not that we don't want I went by the tax office the other day where on 64 there.
Yeah.
They're right there by
the fire marshals.
Yeah. You couldn't get in there.
Yeah.
And I came back by and you couldn't get in there. It's like they're packed out,
And that parking spot's not, you get 5 people in there.
Well, they were in there and in the lanes too. There was probably 20 cars there. And Misty, when she came in for her budget hearing, she said, "My girls never sit down."
Yep.
She said from the time they get there to the time they leave, they never sit down.
Anybody that's ever registered a car, no, that's true. I mean, you walk in there.
She's doing all she can do.
Yeah.
And, when I think about county government, I think we're all doing almost all we can do. Like I told somebody yesterday, I've got a crew of men, about 7 or 8 men that are working. And if you stretched out my mileage of roads, they're from here to Galveston, somewhere working.
Yeah.
And they were like, I can't believe that. I said, it's 275 miles of road that I've got.
Oh yeah.
I said, they're stretched out and they're working I'm almost forced to do subpar work sometimes, things that I don't want to do just to get them by, I hate it when I have to do that, but we're doing all that we can do. And it's almost that way. The sheriff is probably doing all he can do. You look at Tommy Monk's call log, it's you go, when does he sleep?
If you know Tommy, he very rarely.
He's out there doing it, so that's what you sign up for when you sign up for a government job is that you're not going to win.
Right. And so, and we saw yesterday, number one, that we talked about the fuel prices, but also Woodrum Construction come in, and they said, hey, we don't want to do this. We've done this as long as we can, but we need to come in. So things are steadily just creeping up on the expenditures.
Well, just the little bullets, we call them bullets, but they're basically the grinders on our grinding machine.
I heard you say this yesterday.
Yeah, they went from, since I've been in office, they went from 9 to 34, and then they told us last week they're 40 now. And I used, there's 150 on one machine and over 200 on the other.
Yeah.
And pretty much every road we have to change them out.
And for people that don't know, that bullet he's talking about, it grinds up the road, so as it goes, he can go down to the base and put it back up. Mm-hmm. You don't have no way to get that old base up off the ground. You're just starting from a faulty surface. So
that's right.
We also, when we were talking about, and this is the one that I told you sort of caught me off guard yesterday, was the Animal Protection League. And the reason why we're bringing that one up is, and this was across the board. Everybody that was on that panel looked at the spokesperson and said, hey, we don't understand this. I know there's going to be a lot of backlash because the community loves to have their half-price spayed and neuter pets and stuff like that. Explain the concern that the council had yesterday when they denied this increased funding.
So it's a program where we, the spade and neuter program, basically, it's where the county pays for half of some of the spade and neuter. And I think there's 2 places. I think they said 2 places that they're doing it
Canton
now.
And Grand Saline.
Canton and Grand Saline. And it's $1,200 a month. So that's what we allocated for it. And they ran out of money.
Yep.
And she kept saying, we schedule these out 3 months in advance. Which I was quiet for a long time. I was listening.
Yes.
And she's very passionate.
Very. You could tell the passion.
Yeah. And that group of people that are animal advocates are.
Oh, yeah.
And I think my wife has joined them. Because I think my wife might love my dog, her dog better than she loves me.
I know my wife loves her dog better than me.
Anyways, so long story short is basically when I'm listening to that, I'm thinking, okay, they're scheduling it 3 months out.
Yep.
They know how much money they have to spend. You stop scheduling them.
Yeah.
We can't do any more than this. It's just like I do on roads. I had a guy last night at 10:30 I'm talking to, and he told me, he said, I'm fixing to sue the county if you don't come fix my road. And I said, I'm going to come look at your road, not because you're going to sue the county, but because I'm here to serve you. But
right.
And I told him, I said, this is where I'm at right now, and I've got 20 roads that are 10 times worse than what your road is. But so what I'm saying is I can only do what I can do.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to go ask the people for more money. They have to decide what they want. But so anyways, that's what we allocated, and they ran out 2.5 months early.
Right.
And so I think Commissioner Barton was saying something was mismanaged here, and I think it offended her.
Oh yeah.
And but in my mind, I'm like, you mismanaged it.
Yeah.
You shut it off.
You even told her, you said, you say you're not mismanaged. To us, it looks like
the 5 of us feel like it's been mismanaged.
Yeah.
That's not an insult. It's just a fact.
Right.
That's what it looks like. Somebody has to say, we won't be able to get you until October. We can't get you in. We're 3 months out. We can't get you. We can't get to you.
Right.
And there's no doubt, just on math.
Right.
on Matt that was wrong. But and there's no doubt that they're doing good things. If you shut a dog down from having puppies,
Oh yeah.
the numbers. She sent us all information on how what that program has affected the county, and it's a good thing.
Oh yeah.
And also had, someone from a city said we need to put some of that in our budget.
Yeah.
So,
but the thing about it is, there's only so much money to go around for everybody, and you can't. It's just like feeding the homeless. You could literally work yourself into starvation feeding the homeless. You got to meter out. These dog. Well, look how many places around here have animal shelters. It's expensive to run an animal shelter because there's an endless amount of animals out there that need to be taken care of, and they're expensive.
And you have to have an officer designated for that, and a vehicle
and
designated
medical
for
care,
that, and medical care designated for that. And is it a need? It's not in our county. The public says it's not greater than the road infrastructure,
right?
Than the sheriff getting, being able to get to us and serve us. Then the ambulance get there, fire truck. I mean, there are certain things that the public drives that.
Yeah.
Or we're unelected.
Exactly.
So.
Well, one of the things that was brought up yesterday, and I'm going to say this because now that y'all hear this, $1,200 is given to this group of people to do half price spade and neuters. If you can afford to go down and pay full price for your spade and neuter, and you're going to one of these things and getting it half price, what you're doing is someone that's less fortunate than you can't get theirs done because they ran out of money. And that was one of the things that was brought up yesterday is people that could afford to go get it done at full price at a vet clinic are bringing their dogs down there to get it done at a cheaper rate.
Well, and the judge said, "Do you want to pull W-2s?"
Exactly.
Like, I don't know. I don't. I don't want to police that. But I mean, if I felt that passionate about animal care,
right,
I might would.
Yeah,
I would say, yeah, bring me your W-2, and if you qualify, if you're under $25,000 a year, making $25,000, I don't know what the answer is to that.
Or get out there and do more fundraising.
Yeah,
I mean, and that's a lot of it is don't just rely on the county to do this. Tap into other areas that y'all can fund this because I mean nobody's throwing shade on what they do or how they do things.
That's a good thing.
But it was one of those things, and she made it clear yesterday she was not a part of the Animal Protection League. She was just a constituent that wanted.
She was advocaing for them.
Yeah, she was advocating.
They didn't come and ask. She did.
Yeah,
she did for them.
But that's one of those things where number one, get out there and do some some fundraising to help cover these costs, especially if she kept saying momentum.
Right.
Well, I'm sorry. Momentum is what you can call it, but you could be out there 24/7 doing spade neuters, and you're always going to have animals. Not only the pet owners, but you also have these other people that go out and capture these dogs and cats that are strays, bring them over there and have them done, and then go and release them back out into the wild.
Right.
It's there's different things that are these people that are catching all these stray cats and getting them spade neutered and putting them back in the wild. Are they taking up money from?
We just have a lot of problems.
Exactly.
It's just overwhelming. Like when you really, like last year, I was at my first budget meeting last year, and I listened to the amount of people that the library is serving.
Right.
And I had no idea. And so I asked my mother, and she's like, "Yeah, I go up there every week." I'm like, and the children that are being read to there, and just the science behind the idea of a kid having a book in their hands and reading. And how that benefits them educationally. And then she comes and asks for just really, in my mind, on the grand scheme of things, it's a small thing, but you can get nickel and dime to death on a budget,
Oh, yeah.
And I just bring that up because I would love to help them. And I would love to be able to give the spade and neuter project
full funding, 100%.
Yeah, but APET is what it is.
Yeah.
APET. I wanted to call it something else, and I knew it wasn't. But you'd love to do all of those things,
right?
And I look and I go, who would want to be the sheriff?
Not I.
Like just the amount that he's responsible for. But so, anyways, I don't. And then so it just gets dwindled down to where. I don't want to say it this way, but it feels like sometimes they just get crumbs
Right.
But it's all we can give them, and it's better than nothing,
Well, on the hold on a second, this around.
I don't know if I'd call $14,000 a year crumbs, but obviously the demand is greater than the supply.
Well, when you're talking about the kind of budget that they're requiring, I mean, it could get really expensive.
Quickly, yeah.
All right, let's see. I'm trying to get this to flip around. I don't know how to do it. Corbett, how do I get this to flip around?
He might have went to get something to eat.
Oh, Katie, how do you get this to flip around?
You got talking about all that food, and he might have to go get something to eat.
There it is. She found it. All right, I jumped over here to TikTok. Okay. There it is. See, that's why I have these youngins around. They're a lot smarter than I am about this stuff. I'm supposed to be going live on TikTok and all that. We're trying to grow our audience to all these different platforms, and part of the TikTok thing is go live so many days. I don't want to just go live for doing stupid crap, so I hadn't done that exactly. But so we missed yesterday because we had the commissioner's court meeting, so I'm going live today. Maybe I can get the audience and the algorithm and all that good stuff. So I don't even care if it's even hearing us or anything like that. So I guess the only other topic I really wanted to bring up, Brandon Barton, we talked about a while ago, that CAD thing, and he was talking about doing it in per precinct and all that stuff. Where are you at on this CAD proposal? And he's all for it. We can hear that. And where do you stand on it, and what's your argument for or against?
So, when I began to hear about it, and they're diligently searching for money.
Right.
Like, it was presented that it was already being collected, and that's true. Some of it is being collected, and the state is holding it or reallocating it somewhere. So basically, do you understand it? Like outside the city limits, where
they don't have
the sales tax is supposed to be 6.2%,
exactly
6.25%. Sometimes some of these outside these entities are charging 8.25, and that 2% is going to the comptroller, and then it doesn't come back to Van Zandt County.
Right.
And there probably is a significant amount of that happening just maybe on Amazon.
Right.
So anyways, long story short is a county assistant district, we can, the people, if they decide to do that, they can create that county assistant district, and that tax will be out in all these. There are several businesses outside these city limits.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't know what they're talking upwards of $4 million a year, and it can be used for things like roads, infrastructure, emergency services. So the question is, am I for that? If the people are for that, I'm for that. If it comes down to me putting it before the people, that's what I'm going to do.
Right.
I plan on doing that for my district. Now, the emergency service district in my precinct has cut themselves out of that.
Okay.
So they're going to have their own election again. I think they had an election last cycle.
I think so.
And it failed. It did fail. So they're
okay.
So they're going to go put it before.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
They're going to put it before the people again. So basically, if we do it by precinct, my precinct, it's a pretty small area.
Right.
That I would be drawing from. But if they decide to do that and they vote for it, more power to them. I'm going to give them before we ever have a vote, I'll tell them how I intend to spend that money.
Right.
I'll just be right up front with them.
Do you think it's a good idea? Do you think it's...
Yeah, I mean, I can't tell you that I don't need the money to do my job.
Right.
Like, I need more money.
Right. But anytime you start talking...
It is a tax.
Yeah,
and we have
you
to call
start
it
throwing
tax.
that three-letter word, that little tax word.
It is a tax, and it's going to affect some of the businesses, probably not as significantly as, maybe they would. Maybe I don't think it's going to be a huge significant impact on the businesses that are outside.
Right.
But it could be on some of them. I mean...
And, of course, anything that hits the businesses hits the consumer in the back pocket. So, are you...
I think we need to tell... I've took this stand, and I took it firm. Before we ask them for money, we need to tell them how we're going to spend it.
Right. Oh, yeah. I agree 100%. I mean, especially if you're... Again, go back to my monologue. That is our our government. That is our money. This is our system that we're running. So, yeah, you should tell me where this is going, why you're doing it, and the purpose of it, because we want to be sure it's managed properly.
It would have been easier for me if ESD 2, I want to call it 1, but it's 2. It is 2, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes.
If ESD 2 and the county could have gone together and just split it.
Right.
In our precinct. But, and then I would have allocated some of my portion to the volunteer fire department in Fruitvale.
Right.
I think that's the only volunteer fire department I have, isn't it?
Grants Lane. Which Grants Lane? Well, ESD.
They're in the ESD. So
yeah.
So those fire departments that are outside the ESD, I'm going to sound ignorant because I can't think of the other one. I think I only have that one. Edgewood's volunteer. It's not an ESD. So I would have took some of that allocation, and I haven't worked those percentages out, But
right.
Someone said 3%. If I was a fireman, I would have walked out right then. But it should be more than that. But a significant amount is going to go towards roads and fire departments.
Right.
That's what I would do with it, and that will be in writing as long as I'm in office. That's how I would spend that. But I think the general consensus is people. We talked about a trust issue earlier.
Right.
They're afraid that we're going to use that money on infrastructure, which would be the Paul Michael building.
Right. Exactly.
I just think we need to be upfront and say this is how we're going to spend it. And
as always, that transparency plays well, because if you tell people the need, the plan, and the approach, then most people will understand. If they disagree, well, just like yesterday when we were talking about the groundwater district, you said there was nobody against it. Right. Although if you were to listen to that conversation yesterday, you'd almost think that these people were disagreeing. Yeah. But that was how things fine-tuned. You talked about, Ernie bringing up good questions that you were like, hey, didn't think about that before. Yeah. That's how things get hashed out.
We need that.
Exactly.
And we need that before we make decisions.
Exactly.
Because we don't know what we don't know.
Exactly.
And we don't know all the questions.
Exactly.
We need to ask all the questions.
And so when we start talking about, like I said, it's a tax. I mean, you put it out there, even though it hits the county businesses and stuff like that.
I think they'll be the ones that might suffer more than anybody.
Yeah. I mean, and because, most people are already used to paying it out here in the city, so they're already paying 8.25 because the school districts and all that stuff that are already tacked onto it. So they're the only people it would actually really affect would be those people out there in the county.
Ultimately, the people are going to have to decide whether they want that or not. And while we're talking about this and the Paul Michael building or the building on Tradesday Boulevard, we had an election cycle, and the people. It's America. The people went forward with that. So it's marching on.
Update on, I know that y'all had on the agenda yesterday something about to go in there, score it and all that.
I think they're scoring the companies that are going to do the build out on it. And there's a committee that's been selected to score the contractors. So we're not actually... we don't take. I don't think we make a decision on price as much as we do on qualifications to build it out. So that hasn't been done yet. And there's I'm sure the judge is working on a million things. I don't know if you've ever been in the judge's office, but he is surrounded by his work.
Oh yeah.
And he's working on the grant process right now. And all that's tied together,
Oh, yeah.
And we're just, working through those things. But ultimately, and this is what the court has said, it's going to come down to the people voting on a bond.
Right.
So we're having to spend money to get to a place where we can put something before the people.
Right.
Which is, to the average person, when you look at how much money you're having to spend to get to that point, it's so frustrating.
Oh, yeah.
And
y'all have got another uphill battle is... just like y'all renamed it and, the Tradesday Boulevard's building, y'all got an uphill battle on putting some lipstick on that pig, because if it comes up before a bond, and people haven't got the taste in their mouth changed about that building, y'all could be sitting there with an empty shell and spent money.
It'd be for sale.
Yeah.
And we'd fix the windows on the courthouse. And to be honest with you, nobody ever asked me. We talked about it as being an option. Right. When I came into office, all that stuff just snowballed.
Oh yeah.
And I was drowning in information, drinking out of a fire hose.
Yeah.
But we also were looking at options of buying property outside 64 out there somewhere and building a complex.
Right.
For room for a new jail if we needed one or all that. It doesn't look like that's going to happen, but right now, if I were a betting man and I'm not, right now at this moment, I don't know if a bond would pass.
When you said it'd come before a bond, I really don't know that it would. Like I said, it would definitely take a PR campaign to reinvent that whole situation over there, because even people that weren't just staunchly opposed to it, all they heard was the negativity that was attached to it. So they've already got a negative connotation about that whole move. Now, I think there is some support out there. I don't know if you could. I don't know if you could gin that up enough to where we could get the louder voice on the side of doing that. But like I said,
if you look at Facebook comments, and some people say there's no validity in Facebook, I think there's some validity in Facebook.
Oh yeah.
I think people, because they're on a keyboard, or tell you exactly how they feel.
Their truth. Yeah.
Yeah. Even if they're rude,
Yeah.
And you look at the support for the Paul Michael building, and normally it's people that have worked in government.
Oh yeah. Or someone that's been inside that building up there at the courthouse.
They've seen it, Yeah. But here's the thing, and I was trying to explain this to somebody the other day, is the more government we have, the bigger voting blocks of people that are for government that we have.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying?
That's it.
Because, if I'm working for the government and I want a raise, and the only way I can get a raise is to raise taxes.
Yep.
My wife's going to vote for raising taxes.
Oh yeah. Well, you're speaking a conspiracy that I've had for over a decade, and I've told them, I said, if you look, the private sector jobs are not becoming good jobs. You land a good job, you're working for the government. So now, if you start looking at everybody's working for the government, now what do you got going on? Now you got,
we have this discussion. I don't know, almost every time we start talking about budgets and raises and things, I'm like, and they tell me that people in corporate America get a cost of living raise every year. Well, I worked outside of government for a long time.
Right.
And I got raises when we made profits and when I worked hard.
Yep.
And when I proved something.
Yep.
So, it's like I'm swimming against the tide of something, but you take the public education system. It's a huge voter block.
Yep. That's
of
it.
people that are, and they're vested in our children.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're passing a school bond, there's a general consensus is, or what you see normally is that unless it's a major election cycle, people don't show up for it.
Yep.
But the people in public education are going to show up for it.
Oh yeah.
Because they're vested in it. They're vested in those kids. They want to do the best for their kids. I don't blame them for that.
Well, and like I was telling one guy, I said, when you live in a small community like this, it's easy to pass a school bond. Unless you're Wills Point, they just had one drop. But it's pretty easy because 90% of the people in your town work at that school. They've got a kid in that school.
It's the biggest employer in town.
Exactly. And so therefore it's not as hard to come in there and pass as if it was a school bond in Dallas, where you've got, only about 20% of the population working at that school and all that stuff. And so
I've had people that don't vote, and they're upset. Or they vote and then they call me and say, hey, I voted for this and this and this. Did I do the right thing? And I don't know what's worse. Like but ultimately at the end of the day, we need to exercise our rights as Americans while we have them.
That's it.
And everybody needs to go out there and do it.
Exactly. Just like my monologue said a while ago, everybody picks up the trash.
That's right.
If everybody picked up the trash, then you'd have a clean yard. If we start voting the trash out, and I'm not naming names. I'm not picking. You've got eyes. You know who you trust and who. If you do not trust a certain individual, do not cast your vote for him because he's for one party or the other. Right. I tell everybody it's just like hiring a babysitter for your child. Are you just going to take some Joe Schmo off the street?
The cheapest one that comes
exactly.
up.
Are you going to go and you're going to look at that sucker and you're going to dig in deep and make sure you got quality because that's your child. Right. Unsupervised with this individual. Well, these people are unsupervised with your tax dollars, with your liberties. people laugh. I told you I would get called a libertarian almost like it's a dirty word. And I'm not full blown libertarian because I can't allow people to run amok and crash our whole car, you know. But I am one of those that I believe before government comes in and intercedes in anything, it needs, number one, to be dire, and number two, it needs to be highly managed and controlled by the people, because we all know absolute power corrupts absolutely. And if you got somebody up there that's not being watched, I say this all the time when I'm doing my newspaper and trying to sell ads. I'm like, look, it may not be for your advertising. I said, but what about that Paul Michael building? I said, were you one of the people that got caught off guard on that one? I said, if you were, then you need to be supporting people like me, because it's us and these shows like this that are going to keep that conversation out there in the forefront, so next time it doesn't catch you off guard. You know, anybody that had been going to commissioner courts and stuff like that knew the Paul Michael building had been discussed. Now, had it been discussed in depth, there was workshops is what was said. You know, it's like,
the first one was in Edom. They had one in Wills Point.
And so the people that didn't know about it until after it was too late, where were you at that whole other time? Well, I blame the journalist. I do. I blame our newspapers. I blame us, but I also blame our school districts for not keeping our kids reading like they should be. You know, our kids aren't reading. Our younger generations don't read the newspaper anymore. That's why we got to do it this way. Yeah. You know, so we're rocking along here just past the 11:30 time mark, so we'll start bringing this into the landing zone in the airport. Was there anything that was covered in yesterday's Commissioner's Court that you really think needs to be brought out so people can be aware of it and maybe look into it a little bit further?
Yeah, I didn't see it. You know, that the water district, people need to make their opinions, their concerns.
Right.
They need to make them known. I mean, they don't need to wait until it's over with and goes through and then, you know, yeah, and then say, you know, y'all are violating rights, or it's unconstitutional, or whatever, you know, whatever it is that your hang up is. Right. I want to hear it, and then if you have a better way of protecting our aquifer, right, then bring it forward, because we, you know, at this point, I haven't seen that, you know, right. And then the other thing is, then, you know, like that was just a little facet of the budget yesterday that came up with the animals, right. We're having budget workshops. We've already had several budget workshops. People need to
plug in.
They do. I mean, it's
pull your hand out of the sand. Pull your hand out of the sand and start looking around and listening.
Because there's no way that we can add $1.8 million right. of positions to our county without it raising your taxes.
Exactly.
And I've made a promise that I wouldn't vote to raise taxes, and I don't want to raise taxes. I mean, I came in with my budget this year, I asked for $50,000. I think it was $50,000 less than what I got last year. Right. Now I don't know if I can do that every year, but you know, our budget process has been shocked me, really. To be honest with you,
it's been kerfluffle in some areas.
You know, if it were me, if I were just saying, okay, how are you going to do your budget this year? I'll take my budget from last year. Right. And build off of that. And say, where was I short and where was I heavy? Right. And I would adjust all of that before I asked for anything else. You understand what I'm saying? Right. Well, and then also that's not how that goes. Well,
also, and then during the budgeting of this year, there was that one oversight that something wasn't figured in, and that's probably, was that where your $50,000 less? You sort of took a cut to sort of.
No, last year Road and Bridge. Which last year was a perfect storm, and I don't blame, the judge got blamed for that. Right. But it wasn't him. Right. I don't believe it was the judge. Right. I think it was auditors changing, new software that nobody could figure out how to, and we
just a gremlin in the system from the change.
And so, and then we asked people to come in, just basically tell us what you think you want or need. And before we ever had numbers. So when we got to where we had numbers, we got our numbers. It looked like we were $3 million short. So Road and Bridge took a pretty good lick. Right. Because that's the biggest piece of the pie.
Exactly.
So anyways, this year, and last year being my first year, there's a learning curve.
Well, you picked a heck of a time to walk into office. You had a whole lot.
What was I thinking? You know, but, if I had $5 for every time I said I signed up for this.
Yeah. But remember, the first time I saw you, I said, "So you hate yourself, huh?"
Yeah.
I mean, I tell you that anybody that walks up says they're running for office. So what do you hate about yourself? You know, because you're asking for a bunch of abuse.
Yeah.
Well, we got about 20 minutes. I want to jump over here, Corbin. Let's go ahead and do one more round of our specials and stuff like that for the show kicks off. There again, if you want to donate, support the show, or if you want to carry an ad, you can pay for the ad right here. Tell us what your business is. We'll get you in there. Go ahead, Corbin. We got the $7 big meal deal over at Sonic here in Grants Lane. Y'all go in there, get you that meal, and get full for lunchtime. All righty. We got, if you're renting equipment, over at VZ Equipment Rentals, 15% off. Sherman Floor Care, 20% off. Y'all be sure, if you're doing business with these folks that do support our show, be sure and get your savings and be sure and tell them about us, because they will help us serve you. Go ahead. We got the East Texas Heroes August 8th. We're going to have a booth there. We're going to be doing a live show from there. Y'all swing by and see us. We're going to have Sonic coupons and stuff like that, so come get your free things. All righty, we got Tracks Peach Kickin' Chicken, and y'all be sure $14.99. You get a side, 2 sides, and a drink for $14.99. It's all scratch cooking, as my wife always says. It doesn't feel like we're eating out. It feels like we're eating over at somebody's house. It's a really cool environment right as you cross the tracks there in Grants Lane 100 North Main Street, the home of the 2 Salty Broads. And then we got Milano's. Y'all be sure and go check out Milano's. They got a lunch buffet. Go up there. You can eat all you want. Walk out of there, and you have to take a nap after you eat so much pizza. Y'all go check them out. We want to thank Matt and all the group over there for that. And, guys, if you saw the ads on the side of the production over here on the side, y'all please go thank them. Tell them that you saw their ad here on VZTV. That way they can know that they're spending their money wisely. And you know that, and they know that also we're out here defending your rights. Mitch, want to thank you for coming on the show today. Corbin, you want to throw the weather up there one more time, just see if it changed, because we know we've been talking for about 45 minutes and the weather's bound to have changed since then. Yep, so there, told you. Look at that. From now, it looks like we're going to be getting wet a lot more from about 1 o'clock till about, what is that, 9 o'clock? Yeah. So a while ago it was from about 6 to 9, so it's already expanded. So y'all be sure and take your umbrella. This Texas weather is ADD, bipolar, and schizophrenic all in one. So it's going to be right there. You go. There's our radar right there. Let's put it in motion, Corbin, and see what we got. So y'all can see what the green blowing up right there. So anyway, we're going to have us some
showers.
Yep, some good old showers today. So be sure to put your fertilizers out, put your house plants out there, and let them get a little sunshine, a little bit of rain. And, guys, we'll be back here tomorrow with our Friday edition sign-off for the week. Again, all of our episodes are on video on demand on the VZTV app. Y'all be sure to go. If you haven't got it downloaded, of course, I can't imagine you not. If you're watching this right now, you're on the app. But y'all be sure and get it downloaded. And if you're watching this on YouTube after Corbin's already uploaded it, go over and download the app. Mitch, thank you so much for coming in today and being a part of it.
You just need to get a better picture of me.
Well, I wasn't going to say that out loud. What was funny was I was going through my to do my teaser photo. The only thing I had in my photos was your mug shot, and I told ChatGPT, I said, take that orange off of him, give him a denim work shirt. And I asked you when he first started, I said, do you recognize that picture? He said, yep, that's my mug shot.
Yeah, I was angry. I was angry that day. I was like, then people going to think I'm mad all the time. But.
Well, like I was laughing because, like I told you, none of my mug shots even could have been made presentable. So you did good. At least you had your hair combed.
Yeah, my hair was combed.
Yeah. My hair was never combed. Anyway, thanks again for being on. We appreciate you taking time. And of course, you got an open mic anytime you want to. Right. Y'all come back.
I have a lot of questions.
Well, and so do we.
Yeah.
And we're hoping maybe together we can get a lot of answers. Yeah. So anyway, we'll see y'all tomorrow on VZTV, guys.